Okay, take out your note-taking sheet. These are 7.4 notes. 7.4 is all about homeostasis. We've talked a lot about homeostasis, but this is specific to cells. Every living thing, including cells or one cell, needs to maintain homeostasis itself, actually, to be able to survive. So I'm just going to go, instead of me typing it out, go to this. And you should have this as well, sheet out. So let's go over here first, the actual definition. So go down here. So write DEF or definition. That definition of homeostasis is a stable, constant internal, physical, and chemical conditions. So keeping those constant equilibrium, that level inside a cell. Both prokaryotes and eukaryotes have to maintain homeostasis. So that's cells that we see in bacteria or cells we see in plants and animals, for example. This is very similar to the top little oval right here. Single and multicellular organisms need to maintain homeostasis. So that just means something as simple as a one-celled bacteria or a multi-cell organism of any kind. This is, we haven't talked about this concept yet, but to maintain homeostasis, there's involuntary things that cells will do, or people will do, or individuals are voluntary. So those involuntary things are things that are controlled by, let's say, your heart or your nervous system that cells do without really having to think about it. Voluntary things are things we choose to do to maintain homeostasis. Like, for example, if you're cold, you choose to put on a jacket or something like that. Over here, this right circle, some cells of multicellular organisms, so things that are made up of more than one cell, they can actually specialize to maintain homeostasis. And these are two examples up here. In the human, in the trachea, you have specialized cells on the inside. That's your voice box. I'm talking right now, and you can feel your voice box vibrating. And below that, that's your trachea. And you have cells that have cilia, or little hair. Those little hair microtubules, little hair-like projections that actually beat in wave-like motion and move mucus up or trap bacteria. Also, pine pollen over here is a specialized fly to spread the seed of that pollen. Over here, to maintain, right on the line. So we'll learn more about these when we get to the body unit, learning about different systems in the body. But they're called homeostatic mechanisms that are used to maintain homeostasis. That's how it works. We know that our bodies need to keep a temperature at 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, but how does it do it? We'll talk more about that. And some examples of mechanisms that need to be maintained: temperature and the pH of the fluids inside the body. You don't want anything's body to get too acidic or too basic. And this is specific about plants. Over here, plants also need to maintain homeostasis, right? They have the xylem, the phloem, the stomata, etc., that helps keep that plant functioning. Plants can respond to gravity. For example, we know their roots grow towards the ground because of gravity. Actually, the plants responding to gravity. They also respond to light. Certain plants, they grow towards the light, like sunflowers. If you've ever driven by a sunflower field, the heads of the sunflower face towards the light. All organisms, or even just a cell or cells, they can grow. They respond to internal cues or external things around them. They transfer energy. We know how that happens through photosynthesis, cellular respiration, and they reproduce. Chapter 10, we'll start talking about the different ways cells reproduce. And down here, skip that, we'll get to that in body systems. This is what you should see. These are actually two cells that I drew, so you can write here cell. Here's another cell. This, of course, is the nucleus inside the cell. And believe it or not, we know that, we communicate with each other, right? Teacher, student, we communicate with people, but cells actually communicate with each other. And they do this through a few things. They communicate through chemical signals. They can send messages through chemicals to each other. They can also communicate, draw these little channels in between the two cells. These are called gap junctions. They're like little passageways, secret passageways between the cells in which chemicals can actually pass through. That's the green line. And this is, I think, a really cool, if I was in front of you right now, I would put my hands on my head, give myself, what's it called? A moose head, or, put the two hands up, or give myself a bunny ears. On the surface of cells, they have these things called receptors. So go ahead and label that cell surface receptors. Now these receptors are actually do a lot of things. Write down receptors down here as well. But they receive messages from other cells. Maybe a message is coming in, warning, warning, this is something foreign, like a bacteria or virus. It can bind to that receptor, and then it will bring it into the cell. So that cell now knows that something foreign is in the body, and it can respond to that appropriately depending on what that type of cell is. These cell receptors also, I say the word flying their flag. They let people know, or not people, other cells know who's supposed to be there and who's not. For example, like maybe this cell's like, yo, I am brain cell, I'm a nervous cell, I'm a neuron, called a neuron, and I'm supposed to be in the cerebellum. And this one's like, I know that because I know you have that cell surface receptor. And guess what? I'm your partner in crime. I am also in the cerebellum, a neuron in the brain. So we're both supposed to be here, and that's cool. Those are receptors. So cells can communicate. This bottom part, you don't need to fill out. You can write, we'll hit this later on.